Oh, don't worry. Just like I promised you, I'm only having one drink.
Don't worry about it. I'm keeping my word and only having one drink. Before he went on TV, everyone thought they knew Dean Martin's drunk act, but it turned out to not always be an act. How did all these people get into your room? Dean began drinking a lot after his son died in a plane crash. To be honest, I feel bad for those of you who don't drink. That's how you'll feel all day, starting with when you wake up. He was so tired during this live show that he could hardly stand. His well-known charm turned into pure panic. The directors were ready to cut to a commercial, but Dean didn't stop. Tell us something about Dean Martin that we don't know. Look around. What you might not have known. Something you should know about him is that he drinks a lot. It was just a joke, though. What he said next shocked everyone in the room into silence. The smooth crooner was gone, and in its place was a broken man who was drinking to dull the pain that was too much to bear. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen on TV. Dino Paul Crocetti was born in a two-room flat above a shoemaker's shop in Steubenville, Ohio, on June 7, 1917. Gaetano and Angela, his parents, were Italian newcomers who were barely making ends meet. Gaetano was a barber and worked 12 hours a day for only $18 a week. Angela cleaned floors and took in clothes so that things wouldn't go to waste. Inside, there was no running water. Along with 3 other families, they used the same bathroom. All they had to eat was bread, pasta, and any veggies they could grow. Dino didn't know how to speak English until he was 5 years old. The kids at Grant Elementary made fun of his accent. His brother from another mother had to come to class with him just to explain. Dino still felt like he didn't fit. He could no longer go to school after age 13. The last day of 10th grade, he told his mom that he had to bring home real money. He began taking illegal booze across the Ohio River at night for 50 cents a day. By the time he was 14, he was taking bets from steel mill workers who risked their whole paychecks for local bookies. He shinned shoes at the country club, stocked shelves, pumped gas, and brought newspapers to people before dawn. He lied about being 15 years old to get $125 an hour work at the steel mill at night. Every job was a way to stay alive. It was hard work. The pay was not much. They were really tired. As he looked back, he said that easy does it became his way of life after living the hard way. He also began to fight. When he was 15, he went to fighting clubs all over the Ohio Valley under the name Kid Crochet. He fought 36 times between 1932 and 1936, winning 25 and losing 11. His nose was broken by one punch, twisted for all time. He didn't have any hand wraps on, so he fought with no protection. He broke his fingers, and they never healed right. A hook in one match tore his lip open. The scar didn't go away. So bad did it hurt that parts of his mouth giving him that half-smile that people would later call charming. I won all but 11 fights, but every fight left something broken. He joked about his record. In 1936, during a brutal match at Steubenville Memorial Auditorium, Dino, who was 19 at the time, was hit in the head with a rabbit punch and fell face first. He stopped taking breaths. He was brought back in 5 minutes. It was bloody when he woke up and he couldn't stop. He needs to know his name. The doctor told him that one more blow to the head could kill him, so he stayed in the hospital for 3 days. His family couldn't pay the $470 hospital bill. That was his last word. Not any more fighting. After that, he only thought about singing. His first job was singing in seedy clubs in Steubenville when he was only 17. In the back rooms, he dealt blackjack. People liked him. He copied Harry Mills from the Mills Brothers and got tips for it. Then there was a real show. He was hired by band leader Ernie Mackay in 1935 for $75 a week, which was a lot of money during the Great Depression. He sang at the Walker House and the Rex, the cigar shop, and any other place they'd let him hang out. He kept the style calm and easy. All of those things had worked against him, and it worked. He also had a job that not many people knew about. When he was 17, he worked as a crewer at the Rex cigar store, which was really a front for an underground casino. The Scola crime family ran it. From 8 p.m. to dawn, he worked the roulette wheel. Until 4 a.m., 3 times what he made at the mill, $30 a week in tips. People who had lost would sing to calm them down. He kept his cool when the gangsters got mad. The place was searched twice by federal agents. Both times, he got away through a back alley. He would sing with dance bands under the name Dino Martini on slow nights. He would always remember the mix of danger and beauty. It was 1938, and Sonani King and another singer were living in a dirty room in New York. They had a crazy idea. They held bare-knuckle boxing fights in their living room and charged each person 50 cents to watch. A lot of people came to see the fight until one of them lost. Dino knocked Sonny out the first time, and they made $12. 3 or 4 times a week, they did it until the walls were covered in blood and the owner kicked them out. They were hungry. They were in a bad way. They were making it through any way they could. Something big changed in 1940. Sammy Watkins, the leader of a band in Cleveland, offered him $200 a week to go on tour. There was a catch, though. They changed the name because Watkins thought Dino Crescetti was too racial. He was known as Dean Martin after that. It was an American name. It let doors open. Dean played in ballrooms all over the Midwest from 1940 to 1943. People knew his name because of how smooth his voice was and how easy his style was. He got married to Betty McDonald in Cleveland in 1941. They had 4 kids. Craig in 1942, Diana in 1948, Gail in 1945, and Claudia in 1944. But while Betty stayed at home, Dean went on an endless tour. He didn't make it to holidays, birthdays, or first steps. The marriage couldn't last because of the distance. In 1949, just before Dean's world fell apart, they got a divorce. In 1942, he almost lost everything when his past came back to hurt him. Cops went into a Cleveland gambling den and arrested him along with a group of dealers and artists. Felonies against him were very bad, but the case was quietly dropped after a few days. Some say that the people he knew from bootlegging helped. Dean told no one about the arrest. He put his weight on it. He used it to make things spooky. The cooner who has a bad history. The nice guy who had seen the bad side and smiled. Anyway, he was forced to join the Army in 1943, but he only stayed for 14 months before being officially released because of a hernia. Everything changed because of that turn of events. Dean became famous while other guys went to war. He began playing for $500 a night at the Rio Bomba Room in New York. In 1944, he got his own radio show called Songs by Dean Martin on WAYO. In 1946, Diamond Records signed him to make records. Many people heard his voice, even though the songs didn't become hits. That was the start of the moment that would change comedy forever. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis shared the stage at the 500 Club in Los Angeles on July 25, 1946. City of Atlantic. An act that had to be canceled made a hole in the plan. Dean had $150 a week. Jerry pretty much the same. They made do with what they had. Dean sang. Jerry put on a show. The crowd lost it. They were making $1,000 a week in just a few days. At the Copacabana, by September, it was $5,000. They got calls from Hollywood, NBC, and Paramount, who offered them $50,000 per movie. The 1949 movie My Friend Irma made $3 million at the box office. They weren't even the main characters, but they made the movie great. Martin and Lewis made 16 movies between 1949 and 1956, which made Paramount more than $50 million. Every single one was a hit. Their live shows were full. 4,000 people waited outside the New York Paramount Theater to get inside. Dean made people laugh. In 1953, his song That's Amore were number 2 on the Billboard charts for 10 weeks. 2 million copies were sold. At age 36, he got his first gold record. He became known for that song. But something broke. Jerry grew bigger, louder, and stronger. Dean began to feel like a friend. By 1952, each of them was making more than $1 million a year. Their comedy show, the Colgate Comedy Hour, brought in $40,000. An episode, but things got worse. In 1954, Jerry said that Dean was taking the show's attention away from him during a show in Las Vegas. Dean left. He was hit in the face by Jerry, who grabbed him by the shoulder. Dean had to get stitches. The next night, they still did their show. It was over by 1956. They told everyone on July 24th that they were breaking up. Hollywood or Bust, their most recent movie, made $3 million. After that, they were gone. A quiet press statement got rid of the team that had been the best at comedy for 10 years. A lot of people thought Dean Martin was done when he broke up with Jerry Lewis in 1956. He had been Jerry's calm voice of reason for 10 years. Their breakup was public, loud, and a mess, and everyone thought Jerry would get better while Dean got worse. Dean didn't fade, though. A few months before the split, he recorded a song called Memories Are Made of This in secret at Capitol Records. The Easy Riders sang background singing, and Dean was the only one who could give it a smooth charm. The single went to #1 in January 1955 and stayed there for 5 weeks in a row. It sold more than 3 million copies by the end of the year. Dean made enough money from that one song to buy his freedom and show that he didn't need to be funny to be successful. He kept putting up. Sway proved in 1954 that he could add a Latin beat to his slow draw and still make it to the top 10. Then Inamorata came out in 1955 and got to #8. It wasn't like Sinatra or Crosby, where he would belt out songs. He was doing something not so rough. In 1957, his record Dream with Dean made it official. More than 500,000 copies were sold. The music was soft, the beat was slow, and the delivery was smooth. He was hearing songs as well as singing them. His sound became known for being calm. He didn't fight over notes. It looked like it was easy for him. And in Vegas bars, supper clubs, and other places from New York to Chicago, everyone leaned in close to hear every word. Then, in 1962, Frank Sinatra gave him a bigger offer, a place at the table all to himself. Sinatra asked Dean to join Reprise Records, which he had just started. Dean's first record there was in the style of France and had fun covers of songs by C'est Bon. Dean had full power over what he recorded, how it sounded, and who put it together at Reprise. By 1965, he had more than 40 records and 20 songs in the top 40. Reprise gave him $1 million over 5 years. It paid well, but the freedom it gave them was greater. Sinatra didn't use him as a backup. He had his own mind. Dean was the main act at the Copacabana in New York and had a weekly salary of $10,000. That was more than Sinatra. That was more than almost everyone else. He had to sing That's Amore every night, though. Everyone knew him for that song. When he put it in, it paid him up to $50,000 per show. It hurt him, though. He didn't like the fake Italian lines. The cartoonish look it gave him made him hate it. He laughed about it. He sang it over 1,000 times, though, because that song was enough for him. For golf, for houses, and for a life where he could pick the songs he really liked. Dean did something crazy in August 1964, when Beatlemania was at its height. Everyone loves someone, taking away the top spot from A Hard Day's Night. He had it for just 1 week, but that week was it. They had been #1 for 5 weeks in a row. It was a surprise to everyone. The song is by Dean and the Ken Lane Trio. It has sold more than 1 million copies. It was his first gold hit. People asked Dean how it felt to beat the Beatles. He just smiled and said that the Beatles were having a coffee break. The cool couldn't hide everything, though. In 1958, the IRS showed up. Dean had placed around $250,000 in foreign royalties and Swiss funds out of sight. He got a $100,000 fine on top of that, paying back taxes and fees. Dean didn't freak out when he saw the bad news in the papers. In 1959, he came out with the Dino brand of cigarettes. The package had a picture of him on it. They were sold as high-end cigarettes, which is exactly what got him in trouble. He turned the controversy into a name for himself. Dean is the only one who could do that. It was then time to act. Howard Hawks cast him in Rio Bravo in 1959 as Dude, a broken-down drunk sheriff who was trying to get out of a bottle. It was the first time Dean wasn't singing or making jokes. He used smaller sets to film it in old workshops in Tucson. Critics finally paid attention when he shook, sweated, and bled. It was called the When Dean Martin Stopped Being Cool and Became a Real Person. The National Film Registry kept the movie safe in 2014 because it was so good. Then Ocean's 11 came out in 1960. It was filmed in Las Vegas at night. Dean and the Rat Pack put on 2 shows during the day. Then they filmed after midnight. No one slept. Full scenes were made up on the spot. Shirley M. Lamb even used one of Dean's lines from a bar joke when she was drunk. It looked and felt like a party that was filmed. They were making history at the Sands Hotel. The name of it was The Peak. In January 1960, for 3 weeks, 34,000 people crowded into the Copa Room. Joey Bishop knew Dean was lying when he said it was easy. Dean left early to go home while everyone else drank. He didn't want to wake up for parties, but for golf. In Who Was That Lady? He kept up the act. In a CIA mess-up comedy, he played a TV writer. Dean was up for a Golden Globe for the movie with Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. He played Dr. Dino, a bar singer in Kiss Me Stupid, who tried to sleep with a housewife. The Catholic Legion of Decency said the movie was completely bad. To escape the backlash, United Artists put it out on a separate label. Dean didn't care, though. He never said sorry. He worked hard all the time. In 1965's Marriage on the Rocks, he played Sinatra's best friend in a story about a bad marriage. After 20 years, it was their last movie together. It was also a time of change in Dean's personal life. Betty McDonald and he were married for 9 years and had 4 children before they split up in 1949. This happened the same year he got divorced, just a few weeks after they got married. Dean Paul Jr., Richie, and Gina were their other 3 children. There were ups and downs in the 24 years of marriage. Even after Dean's public events, Jean stayed true to him. She never got married again after they got split in 1973. By the middle of the 1960s, Dean was one of the wealthiest stars alive. They were already making $1 million a year with Jerry Lewis in 1951, which is more than $123 million today. Dean did not just want money, though. He wanted power. He started the Dean Martin Show on NBC in 1965. It was on for 9 years. It was one of the top 10 TV shows by 1967. NBC gave him $34 million to stay on for another 3 years. He could skip rehearsals because of his deal. He just smiled, showed up, and made it work. Apple juice was used instead of booze. His slurred speech added to his charm. Many people thought he was always drunk, but he wasn't. He put on a show. In the end, Richie Martin said that he used booze as a prop. With the start of the celebrity roasts in 1973, Dean changed the name of the show to the Dean Martin Comedy Hour. Bob Hope was the first one. Then Sinatra, Jimmy Stewart, and a lot of other stars came along. The recording took place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. But on November 21, 1980, 85 people died in a fire that destroyed the hotel. Making things stopped for a long time. Dean came back to finish his job, but there was no spark. In the same decade, Dean and Jerry Lewis finally got back together. In 1976, on Labor Day, the Muscles grew apart. Story-a-thon. It was made possible by Frank Sinatra. More than 85 million people watched. They hadn't talked in 20 years. He cried, "Jerry." Dean gave a smile. In the back. They didn't say much. Jerry said sorry. Dean let him go. Some say they talked every day after that. Some say they didn't. There's no way to be sure. But for one night they worked together again. As a retired spy called Matt Helm, Dean Martin came into the public eye in February 1966. The world forgot he was ever in a comedy team. There was no reason for the Silencers to be this big. At the box office, it made $16. It was just meant to be a fun little joke to cash in on the popularity of James Bond. $3 million, and made Dean the star of his own spy series. People liked how calm he was while saving the world and making jokes with women like Stella Stevens and Sid Charisse. They didn't